Rosh Hashanah is coming, and our holy brothers, the Sephardim, have been preparing since Rosh Chodesh Elul. They've been saying Slichos. And my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapiro, said that he really understands our brothers, the Sephardim. And it was very unusual for him to say something like that. He's a Ashkenaz, great Rav, but he claimed that the Sephardim understand the power of these days, the power of Elul. They're capitalizing. And we also do Teshuvah. We try to do it as early as possible, but come Motzei Shabbos, all of Klal Yisrael, the Sephardim, the Ashkenazim, the Hasidim, will all be doing a collective Teshuvah. We'll all be starting a process. In this year, it's a 4-day process of looking for ways to grow, ways to improve. And the truth is that I have to be honest, I am jealous of you guys. I'm jealous of you guys because I remember these years when growing was so incredibly palatable and moves were done that were so big. Deleting an app, starting a new chavrusa, working on Kriya Shema at the right time. So much excitement, so much movement. And I feel a little embarrassed as I get older. The process becomes slower, more subtle. One year I was coming to Rosh Hashanah and I told my wife, I said, I don't really know how I grew this year. And she said, like a good Aish Yeshiva, she said, what do you mean? She said, do you see that relationship with this family member? That's unbelievable what you did this year with that. I didn't even remember. I was happy she pointed it out. But we have to grow. And it doesn't matter where we are in the process. If our stock is going up, we're in the best place. But if our stock is going down, then we're in trouble. Rav Itzla Petroberg, the great Talmud, the prize student of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, said that if you have someone who has 20,000 rubles and they go down to 15,000, and you have another guy, he has 1,000 rubles, but they went up to 1,500, who's in a better situation? On the one hand, someone with 15,000 rubles is in a better financial situation than the one who only has 1,500. But the one who's going up is a rising star and the other one's on his way down. And says Rav Itzla Petroberg, at this time, Hashem's not looking at every single thing that we're doing. He doesn't expect us to be perfect. He expects our stock to be going up. He expects us to be making moves, that there's a trajectory upwards. And you could have somebody who has all the Torah and all the mitzvos, knows all of Shas, knows all of the Zayar, but if his stock is going down and your stock is going up, you're in a better place because you're moving up in the world. You're connecting more to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'd like to talk about the optimism of Teshuvah. Teshuvah is something that could be so depressing. Sometimes we just hate other people critiquing us, pointing out our problems. And the truth is we hate doing it to ourselves as well. And the process of Teshuvah is dangerous. It's almost like we should skip it because who knows what we're going to find if we start looking. But I want to tell you a beautiful mashal of the Vilna Gaon that blew me away. The Gaon in Mishlei Tesches says that a wise man loves getting criticism. He loves getting tochacha, musar. And a fool, a clown, hates it. And the Vilna Gaon explains with the following mashal. He says, if you have a woman who has a mirror, in the olden days, mirrors were not so great. I actually saw a mirror from the 1800s. It was a cloudy mirror. You couldn't really see much. He says, women want the best mirror possible. A mirror that could point out every single blemish. You know, they have those mirrors, those shaving mirrors for men. A woman would appreciate that. You could see some more blackheads. see some more things to fix, to touch up. He says a woman loves a mirror that shows her problems. And the more the mirror shows blemishes, the happier she is with that mirror. Do you know why? Because her goal is to beautify herself. When you know you're beautiful, when you understand that you're beautiful and you can become more beautiful, then bring it on. Problems and places to grow are not a threat that make me feel like a loser, that make me feel like a failure. They're an exciting opportunity to move my stock up, to be a different person. I actually know a woman who was in an accident, a terrible accident, and her face is just not the same. And she said she will never look in a mirror for the rest of her life. Do you know why? Because she doesn't think she's beautiful. When you know you're beautiful, you look in the mirror. And the Vilna Gaon is teaching us that the process of Teshuvah is the process of a beautiful person becoming that much more beautiful, looking for every possibility to raise that beauty. One of the first stories of Teshuvah where Hashem, Kiviyachol, if you could say, acted like a mashkiach ruchani, who's always making sure the Bachrim have what they need, are in a good place. The story of Cain and Hevel. Cain brought a carbon, a sacrifice to Hashem. So did Hevel. But Hevel's was accepted and Cain's wasn't. And the Pasuk says something that I don't know how many people notice this, but I guess because it's my job to help Bachrim who are sad, who are down, who need direction. So I guess I'm a little more sensitive to this. The Pasuk says that when Cain's carbon was not accepted, it was chara, he was angry, vayiplu panav, his face fell. His face fell. This is the first place, the makor for a drooping face. You know that face where the guy is just, it fell, drooping down. He's down and out. And the strangest thing happens. Hashem sees him, angry, disappointed, and with a drooping face, and he says, Lama yiplu panecha. Why is your face drooping? Why is my face drooping? Excuse me. I just tried to give a carbon to you, Hashem. Right? Planet Earth hasn't been around for that long. I'm the second generation. I'm doing this. And you shut me down. I shouldn't have drooping panim. Drooping panim, by the way, is very deep. The face, the word panim, face, and the word pnim, which is our inner soul. Pnim means inner. Our panim and our pnim are the same. And everything about us that makes us unique, that gives us aspirations, none of us look alike. Kemoshe partzufeim ein and Shabbos, just like our faces are different. Kein deoseim ein and Shabbos, the way we think is not the same. We have different goals and aspirations and dreams and missions. And when our face falls, it's like everything we thought we were, everything we thought we could become, just falls down. The face falls. You're telling me not to give up at this point? Says the Sforno on this pasuk. Hashem says, why is your face falling? Why are you worried about the past? Why do you feel so bad about the past? Don't you realize that everything is doable, everything's fixable? This is what Hashem says to Cain. And I'm a little bit confused. I thought Teshuvah is about being depressed about the past. That's the whole concept of charatas, to feel bad. But you see from here something incredible. Teshuvah does not mean feeling depressed and down and dwelling on the past. Teshuvah means understanding that the things you did before made you less beautiful than you really are, and you become a forward thinker. The only type of teshuvah is a teshuvah that thrusts you into action. Any teshuvah that makes you fall down and stay there is not a teshuvah. And the Bala Tanya, the great first Lubavitcher Rebbe, says there are two types of getting upset at yourself. There's one called atzvus, which is depression, where a person messes up and he can't wake up in the morning. He's down and out. He's depressed. He barely can speak. He barely can eat. And he says that's from Yesoda Afar. That's like being immobile. It's like becoming part of the ground, fixed and not moving and not growing. And then there's something called merirus. Merirus is being embittered. It comes from fire. And says the Baal Tanya, a yid should never get atzvus, be depressed. A yid should always be on fire. What does that mean? When you're on the court and you miss a shot, and you run back to defense. That's a fire, because you're playing the game. And the Baal Tanya says that's teshuvah. When someone stays on the court and runs to defense, he's a player. But when someone looks at the past and it makes him forget how beautiful he is and makes him chas v'shalom think that he's a failure, a loser, then that's all a koach hatumah. That's all something that the Yetzer Hara put into this whole process. And I'm going to tell you a mashal. And the truth is, I don't usually tell parables, but this is something that's my own parable, and it's been something that has changed, hopefully tried to change my life, and it resonates by a lot of people. And if you forget everything I said tonight, I don't recommend that, because the Baal Tanya, the Vilna Gaon. But if you remember this and take this with you, then I think this will give us the strength to do real teshuvah. There's a boy, we'll call him Little Dovey. Little Dovey is 6 years old, cute little guy. My name is Dove, so I like the name Dovey. Little Dovey always wanted a remote control plane. He's driving his dad crazy. Dad, I want this plane, please, please, my birthday's coming up. I want a remote control plane. Maybe I should have updated this to a remote control drone, but it's an old mashal. And little Dovey, one day his father comes home from work with a big box, wrapping paper. Dovey can't believe it. He rips open the wrapping paper. It's the ultimate plane, remote control plane. Dovey kisses his father, Dad, Dad, Dad. Right? A father, you guys will see when you're on the other side, nothing can make a father feel better than little Dovey's smile at this point. All of a sudden, little Dovey's father goes into the kitchen feeling like $1 million. Dovey's in the living room. All of a sudden, Dovey goes, ah! Dad, ah! Wow, what's going on? Right? Did he get hit by the propeller? Who knows what's going on with little Dovey? He runs in there. Dovey, what's wrong? He goes, Dad, what kind of sick joke is this? How could you do this to me? It's like, Dovey, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? I got you this beautiful plane. I didn't even go on Amazon. I went from store to store to find the perfect plane. He goes, Dad, I was excited. I saw the picture on the box, but I opened it up. There's one wing over here. There's a propeller over here. The motor's over there. The tail's over there. Dad, this is in shambles. This is garbage. This is a broken plane. What'd you do to me? It's better I wouldn't have had one of these. Dovey's father starts laughing. He picks up little Dovey, gives him a big kiss on the cheek. He says, Dovey, this is assembly required. This is a model plane. We're going to do this together. This is the whole point. Dovey all of a sudden goes, wow, Dad, 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 Dad. Right? Didn't take long to change Dovey's verkehrt. Just the opposite. Dovey's building the plane. He's not buying this plane. Now this seems like a very cute, silly mashal. But I want you to know that we do this. Every time we start the teshuvah process, we get shocked. We find a wing over here, the propeller over there, the motor over here. It's better we didn't see. It's a bunch of garbage. Everything's all over the place. And we never realized that not only is this something that should be, but this is how you build yourself. We're assembly required. There's an excitement to finding something to work on. There's a point to all of this. Hashem set it up this way, lichatchila, that there's a process in teshuvah. Anyone who's looking to be perfect is going to be very disappointed because they're not looking to be human. We're not malachim, we're not angels, we're people. And I want you to know I'm a Rebbe. And it says a Rebbe is supposed to be Domel Lamalach, supposed to be an angel. That's a big problem, because I'm not a Malach, so how am I even here? So you know what I say to myself? In the earlier generations, maybe they were like angels. But today, what am I going to do for my students? If I make a mistake, I'll apologize, and I'll take responsibility for it. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I'm trying to be part of a process to take responsibility for being imperfect. Make a mental note and be a better Rebbe for the next Talmud and for the future of this Talmud. And this is something that we sometimes will miss. The Rambam doesn't talk this way. The Shari Teshuvah doesn't talk this way. It seems like they're giving the impression you have to fix everything. But I want you to know the greats of the generations have told us. The Altar of Kelm from the great Talmidim of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Rav Yechezkel Levenstein, the great Or Yechezkel, who was a Malach. And the Chafetz Chaim say that the goal of Teshuvah is not to fix everything. We've never found anyone do this. And they write this in their own personal diaries about themselves. That it just can't be that that's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants a process. Hashem wants us to be able to challenge ourselves, not to be the same people next year, to be on a trajectory of greatness. You know, I had a mashkiach, the great Rav Naftali Kaplan. He now has many yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael, his sons, and he had these koyalim, and he was somebody that could find flaws in people. And you know what? I wanted him to find problems with me because that was what I thought a mashkiach is supposed to do. One time I came to him and I said, Mashkiach, I think I found a problem with myself. Like, Shkayach, you found a problem, right? I found a problem with myself. And I told him what it was. And he said to me, he said, Chaim Dov, I knew that problem about you a long time ago. Thank you very much. So I'm like, why didn't Rebbe tell me? I mean, if I, why didn't you tell me? He said, I knew that you needed to figure this out on your own. I knew you needed the process. What? You have the answer? You can just tell me? No, it's a process. And there are going to be things in life that we need to work on that we're not even in a place right now that it can even occur to us. And it's not even supposed to occur to us right now. Right now, we're supposed to beautify ourselves in the ways that relate to what we're doing right now. And tshuva is always doable. There's a story of the great Rav Shlomo Hoffman. Rav Shlomo Hoffman was a criminologist who was not in the spotlight during his lifetime. However, my great Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapiro Zatzal, and others held that he was the person who carried a tradition of what Gedolei Yisrael want from us and direction. And when he was a young man, he was depressed in Elul. His face was drooping. And the great Rav Chatzkel Sarna, the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, saw him. He says, why is your face drooping? Because you think that you have to change in a way that you'll never make a mistake again? Like the Rambam says in Hilchos Teshuvah, he says, we don't paskin like that, Rambam. And he shows him a Shari Teshuvah that's not like that. Whoa, first of all, I didn't know that there's a world of psak over here, decision making, Rambam, Shari Teshuvah. How are we making this decision? But I think the answer is, aside from a Masorah that he must have had, if tshuva's not doable, then we don't paskin that way. There's no such thing as tshuva that's unreasonable. If something is happening that's unreasonable, if something's taking you down, making you feel bad about yourself and not a winner, making you feel ugly instead of beautiful, that's not tshuva. Tshuva's where you're on fire, where there's a mariras. Come on, Stark! Why can't you get out of bed? To trash talk yourself, because you hold of yourself. Just like you always expected to get the shot. Come on, I should have got that shot. In hockey, in basketball, whatever it might be. What's wrong with you? But you're saying it with energy, because you believe in yourself. Look how you can give yourself that musar. Look how you can handle the critique when you're on fire and you know you're a winner. When you're looking in a mirror to become more beautiful. And this is something we have to hold on to, my friends. We have to remember always, we're assembly required. You guys are in an incredible journey. And the journey is long. And the journey is difficult. And the journey has setbacks. And the journey has certain things that it's worth working on right now, and certain things it's worth putting to the side. The Sfas Emes says something a little different than I said last week. I believe I said last week that why is the horoscope of Elul, Besula, a virgin? Because it shows that even if a person defiles himself, like when the Cheda Egel took place, we could go back to a time when we had that innocence, when we were perfect, when we were unscathed, before we lost our innocence. That's what I said last week. But the Sfas Emes says, no, that's not true. He says, even now, when a person lost his innocence and is sitting in a very dark moment, Hashem has a way of looking at you in a way that you can't see yourself. You might look in the mirror and see yourself one way, but Hashem has a special way to look deeper. And then he looks deeper. And then he looks deeper, and then he looks deeper, and then he finds a place in you that never did anything, ever, even before the Teshuvah process. And he says that's the bracha of Magen Avraham. When you say Baruch Atah Hashem Magen Avraham, that there's a shield of Avraham, he says it's the special thing that Hashem does where he finds a place where you're beautiful already, where that's who you are. And when he looks at you that way, there's a shield around you. No one can touch you. And we have to look at ourselves like that, my friends. The process of Teshuvah is just like Elul, a relationship. Ani ledodi doidi li. A beloved has to feel attractive. A beloved has to feel loved. A beloved has to feel like her husband is interested in her. And we have to know how much Hashem is interested in us. So let us enter this time. It's a time where we're going to check our korban. 4 days to check a korban for a blemish. But if I'm the korban and you find a blemish on my korban, then where am I going to be? No! There's a concept in Hilchos Korban called a mum over. There are certain things, like you could have a wart on the korban, that if you brought that to Hashem, it would be a problem. But when you find that wart, you can just take it off. It's something that's a mum over, it disappears. And in these days of slichos, we find things and we deal with them, and dealing with them does not mean becoming perfect. Dealing with them means starting a process. And Hashem sees our stock going up. Hashem sees our beauty coming out, and with that we'll all be zocha to a beautiful and wonderful Shana Tova Umesuka and a Ksiva V'Chasima Tova.